Joy and privilege to have with us in our last meeting for the weekend, Dr. Caroline Leaf, a scientist, an incredible speaker. Listen fast, people. You're going to get more information than you can cope with in the next 30 minutes. Let's all stand up and welcome Dr. Caroline Leaf right now. Thank you very much. Mac and Dr. Caroline.
You're fine. Oh, that's all right. Yeah.
I just stood on his toe.
Thank you. May be seated. I said to the people today, we average about 65 events a year and just going around the world, seeing all the churches and really becoming a connoisseur of worship and pastors and airplanes and hotels and so on. And I must say, I want to thank you from Caroline and I for hosting us so wonderfully in this beautiful city of yours and looking after us every inch of the way with your hospitality team and allowing us the freedom to teach from your platform. We really appreciate that, so we want to thank you, both of us. And it just reminds me when I look at this church about this guy who was doing a survey of churches around the world, and he walked into a big church in Atlanta, and at the back of the church was a big golden telephone, and underneath it had the sign $10,000. So he asked the pastor, "What's that?" He says, "Well, it's for anybody who wants to speak to God." So he noted that in the survey, and he found it again in another big church in LA. He headed out to Australia, just down the road here, Mossman, Oxford Falls, came to a little church, and in the back there was a small little telephone, and it said $5. So he asked the pastor, "Why is that?" He says, "Oh, around here it's a local call." So I believe God is with you.
It is a tremendous honor, and I'm so sad that it's the last session. It's been amazing. These are just incredible pastors. I'm going to ask you to stand up again. You know, we go around the world, as Max said, and you meet special people in your lives, and these are two, Pastor Phil and Chris are two very, very special people, and they're such a blessing to Mac and I. So can we just stand up and honor your amazing pastors? Thank you. They are so genuine. We honor you. Thank you. So genuine. Okay, so Pastor Phil said I can speak faster than I spoke this morning. So for those of you that have never heard me speak, I'm a scientist and I spend my life teaching people about the mind-brain connection. I talk about spirit, soul, body. I teach on the connection between those. I've been researching it for years. I still do a lot of research. And tonight I'm going to focus, the weekend I've been speaking a lot about the spirit and the soul. And tonight I'm going to speak spirit, soul too, but I'm going to also speak about the fact that we need to look after our mind and our body and the earth that God has given us to steward as the royal priesthood. So we are a royal priesthood, we need to steward what God has given us. So we're going to talk about, you'll see the slide coming up, the title is Think and Eat Yourself Smart, a neuroscientific approach to a sharper mind, okay? So we're going to look at the thinking behind the eating, because it's got a lot to do. What we choose to eat is not just keeping us biologically alive, it's got a lot to do with what's going on with our emotions, the kind of choices we make, our mindsets, etc. There's also a lot of research showing that the way that you eat is very affected by, or the nutrition you gain from what you eat is very affected by your mindset. So not only is your mindset, your mind, your thinking, your feeling, and your choosing affecting the physical structure of your brain and body, but your mindset is also affecting the nutritional content of your, or the nutritional absorption of your brain and body, and every cell of your body to absorb what you're eating, okay, and to get the best out of it. So there's a lot of slides to help you, so which makes me able to, I can speak even faster because you can read it if you can't follow me, okay? So research shows that 2 out of 3 people gain weight back. So let's start there, because a lot of people think of food and they think I'm going to teach you to eat walnuts and certain diets. I'm not going to do that tonight at all. I'm not going to teach you any diets, and I'm not going to teach you to lose weight or anything like that. I'm going to teach you how to have the right mindset behind the meal, the real reason for grace, okay? So we have to go to the mind. So we're going to look at some research, and the first thing is that 2 out of 3 people gain weight back when they lose it. The reason is that 90% 90% of people focus on things like diet, what they're eating, and exercise, but they forget all about the mind. So there's no sustainability in the maintenance of whatever weight you're gaining or losing. Okay, so mindfully considering the emotional content of what you are thinking about while you're eating is very important, and I'm going to show you that as we're going along. So for example, this is one of the examples I gave this weekend, so let me give it again. When your digestive system has it's hugely complex, and one of the parts of your digestive system is your pancreas, which secretes 20 different peptides, neuropeptides, that are absolutely essential for you to get the nutrition that you need for your brain to function. And your brain and body need to function because you live in a body, you have a brain, and your mind works through your brain and your body express your mind and your spirit. So if you don't have a decent, healthy body, you're not going to express the you-ness, the perfect you, correctly. So it's not something we can just push to the side. We have to focus on being integrated spirit, soul, and body. So when we have the wrong kind of attitude, and while we're eating, you may be eating super healthy food, but with the wrong attitude, you will affect the amount of peptides that are secreted. And if it just 1 out of the 20 is not secreted correctly, it's going to affect the nutrition in your body. And that's going to then impact the other parts of the digestive system, and everything works together as a whole. So when one thing is thrown out by your mindset, then everything gets thrown out. And very often, well, not very often, there's a huge statistic of people globally that are battling with physical issues in their body related to eating, and they think it's the type of food they're eating, gluten-free, this and this and this, and all these different fad diets, and they try this. But most of the time, the research shows, up to 90% of the time, it's because your mind's not right. So your mind is directing, what your mindset is directing what your body is doing with the nutrition. So mind is so vitally important in everything, and we see that very clearly in Scripture because we have a love power and a sound mind. So we've got to use our love power and our sound mind correctly, which is what I've been talking about, which I talk about in my books, etc. So when you are in toxic stress, it inhibits all kinds of things in your body, as you can see up on the screen there. You have the gastrointestinal secretion that is required for digestion gets affected, so it reduces blood flow to the gut. These are all things that really affect how you function. So we have to admit that there is something wrong with our global food system. And 50 years ago, there was a major change in the food system with the industrialized food movement, and eating became unnecessarily complicated. It's like we need to have a nutritionist telling us what to eat when eating is a normal thing. So something has gone wrong where eating has become so complicated. Every week there's a new diet fad. You must eat this, you must eat that. You cannot believe how many people ask me, should I eat paleo? Should I go vegan? Do you think it's okay to eat meat? And I say that there's only one rule for eating, and I'm going to tell you that one rule in a moment. Okay, there's one rule for eating. So there's no best type, there's no there's one rule for eating. We'll see that in a moment. What we have to first look at, though, is that there are deeply rooted mindsets behind what we eat. There are deeply rooted mindsets behind what we say and what we do as well. Okay, so tonight we're focusing more on how it influences our eating, but I'm going to bring up a few things in tonight's discussion that relate to just general life skills as well, because people are dying 15 to 25 years younger than what they should from preventable lifestyle diseases. So when we talk about lifestyle diseases, we are talking about how you think, feel, and choose about everything that's going on in your life, including what you eat. Okay, so research shows that unless our thinking dominates correctly, so unless we have decent thinking, we are going to actually have a problem with how we digest food. Okay, so because thinking is 75 to 98% of the signal that controls how your genes express, and the way that your genes express in every single cell of your body, and you have 75 to 100 trillion cells in your body, is influenced by your mind. Your mind is very important in this process of living and in this process of functioning with a healthy brain and body. Let me stress again, your mind is separate from your brain. Your brain is not your mind. They're two separate things. Your mind controls your brain. Your mind is your thinking, feeling, and choosing. It's part of your non-spirit. It's part of your non-physical nature. It blends in with your spirit man. And it controls and changes the structure of your brain. So your mind changes your brain. So you're not a victim of your biology. You're a victor over and above your biology. So we've got to steward our mind by renewing it. We've got to steward our mind about renewing what we eat as well. So like I often say, you can't eat that junk food and then say grace and expect God to turn it into organic kale. So it doesn't work like that. God is not a genie, okay? So this is the rule. This is the only rule for eating. Eat real food mindfully. So whether you want to eat paleo, vegan, vegetarian, whatever you want to do, blood type, whatever works for you, whatever you find is working at that time in your life, that's completely up to you. But what the important thing is, it real food. And we're going to look at that definition in a moment. And secondly, mindful eating. So in other words, bring your mind into the process. I go so far as to say that if you're in a foul mood, irritated, frustrated, anxious, worried, hyped up or whatever, don't eat until you calm. Because your body is in a state where it cannot digest the food, and you'll end up getting all kinds of issues with your digestion if you're worked up. If you can't find real food, don't eat. Okay? Fasting is good for you. We'll see a little bit about fasting. Fasting actually causes secretion in your brain of neurotransmitters that increase your cognitive flexibility, so you become more intelligent the more you fast. Okay, people don't like to hear that. Fasting has a spiritual component, but it also has a very healthy component when it comes to eating. And that doesn't mean you have to go for 21 days without food. It may just mean a meal. It may just mean a few hours. I mean, sometimes people can't even not eat for like an hour. So we need to actually train ourselves to fast more, because it's very, very healthy. The older you get, the less food you need as well. So that's an important thing to bring into mind. Caloric restriction, as they call it, is very important for health. So what is real food? Real food is grown the way God intended. God wired our brains and our bodies for love. Our brains and bodies are wired for love, which means that there's nothing in our brain and body, as I've been saying all weekend, and I say in all my work, is that there's nothing in our brain and our body that can handle anything toxic. So we have no wiring for fear, anxiety, worry. We do not have those circuits in our brain. We do not have enzymes or proteins or brain structures to handle toxicity. So when we make a wrong choice, we're creating toxic wiring in our brain that is abnormal. And I'm pointing to this side, which is the fear zone, where you see the toxic tree, and this is the love zone, the healthy side, and when this is the normal side. Okay, so when we think, feel, and choose related to our life, related to our food, etc., when we think healthy, we build health. When we think toxic, we build toxicity into our brain. And this is real. This is real stuff. Thoughts are real things. They occupy mental real estate. And there's a thought that precedes your mouth chewing on that food. And the way that your mouth and your mind is working is going to influence it. So real food is supposed to be eaten and grown the way God intended. Fresh and nutritious, predominantly local and seasonal. Now, interesting about local, looking at the wired for love design in our body, wired for love in the earth. If you live in this climate and there's other climates in other parts of the world, we see different types of foods in different parts of the world. This is a love design, because you need certain types of nutrition because of the certain things that you're being exposed to in the Australian climate, or in this particular part of Australia. So there's a plan in God's design to eat local, because whatever's local is going to be what is going to supply what you need to make you strong, your immune system strong in that environment. So God provides you with multiplicity of love design in food to help you to stay healthy, so that you can do what you're supposed to do. So being in your perfect you, which we've been speaking about all weekend as well, being your perfect you is your natural, normal, wired for love design, also applies to the food that you eat. So we can't just be super spiritual and ignore our mind and ignore our body. You're a spirit, soul, body. You're supposed to be integrated spirit, soul, body. And Thessalonians talks about how God tells us to be integrated spirit, soul, and body now until Jesus comes again. So it's not, okay, I'll do it next year. I'll start in January with the New Year's resolution. It's now. We start now with the decision to get our minds renewed around lifestyle, and including in that is eating. Okay, so grass-fed, as wild as possible. So your animals that are wandering around, happy cows and happy chickens, and that are wandering around in the fields eating and eating the grass and the herbs and whatever, that is natural. That is normal. When they are living like that, those cows, those chickens, those pigs, etc., they are not unhappy. They're not scared. They're not frightened. As soon as they put in a concentrated animal feeding operation, it's abnormal. They're frightened, they're scared, their body goes into stress, they're in abnormal conditions, so they're fed all kinds of hormones to make them grow fast, all kinds of antibiotics, and whatever they are fed, you are eating. And that not only is bad for you and bad for the animals, it's cruel. It's absolutely cruel, and it's not stewardship of what God has given us. There's a very strong spiritual component involved in food. You can't live without food. So if you can't live without food, it's the second top addiction. The top addiction is love. You cannot live without love. You cannot live without food. So if God's made us like that, we should be paying as much attention to love and to food as well. And that is love for God, is loving his animals, loving his creation, respecting and honoring God. So this is a spiritual spiritual thing. This is not a diet talk. This is a spiritual talk. In my book, Think and Eat Yourself Smart, you will see that there are tons and tons of scriptures where I prove to you that things like GMO and gluten-free and things are actually missing the mark. They're moving away from what God has designed. God kind of knows what he's doing. We don't have to take God and reinvent the wheel. Science shouldn't be reinventing the wheel. We should be looking at what God is doing and mimicking that. And so that is called the science of biomimicry, and I talk about that in this book, where you look at nature and learn from nature. And it is a whole science that is developing, and the most phenomenal things are coming out of it. And I show you in this book how if you follow God's way by eating real food mindfully, we will be able to control things like hunger in this world, illness will reduce, etc., lifestyle diseases that are preventable. But we're not listening to God. So who's going to wake up and listen? Hopefully the church will lead this way. We have an organization called an NGO called the Whole Mind Project, where we are helping churches to start learning how to plant their own gardens, grow these raised beds, whatever, grow your own food, feed the community. If someone's hungry, you live in a privileged society in Australia, you don't have the hunger that you see in many other parts of the world. I come from South Africa originally, which is starving. There's so much starvation there, but you're aware of starvation. But someone who's hungry or who's in a bad place, who is homeless, they're not interested in Jesus. They're interested in getting food in their stomach. And that is loving. You can reach out. If you can have whole communities, you've got farmland here. You can grow gardens. You can grow gardens you can transform your community by feeding your community. There are people in downtown LA that are growing food in cracks in pavement, in cracks of pavement, not crack, not cocaine, cracks in the pavement. And where there's just trash. They've taken the trash out, they're growing food, and they are transforming entire communities and feeding them and teaching the kids to pollinate the earth instead of pollinating each other. Got it? Okay. If someone grows something, they will eat it. And you can take people that are sitting around and bored and starving and getting into the wrong thing. Grow gardens. It is so healthy. Grow your own food. And this is what if you want to know more about that, we've got this in the book. I've got an app teaching you how to eat properly, and we've got a lot of information helping you to learn how to do the spirit, soul, body integration in terms of changing your community on our Whole Mind website, which you can find through the Dr. Leaf website as well. So grass-fed, free of synthetic chemicals, whole or minimally processed. Cook it in the kitchen. That's how processed it should be. You watched Jane Grover's segment yesterday. She's brilliant and hilarious. She tells you all about whole food in a nice, interesting, sexual way. I got your interest. Okay, so you will never look at limes in the same way after watching her little segment yesterday. Ecologically diverse. Now, this is very interesting. Diverse means different. And as much as we all have different fingerprints and we're all unique, we see uniqueness as well in nature. So, for example, there are 30,000 different types of wheat. Did you know that? Tell me if you've seen 30,000 different types of wheat in your stores. No, you don't, because it's not financially viable. That's what, according to big industry, to have all those types of wheat. It's much what they've done is they've taken the 30,000, and the majority of products that you see in your supermarkets are made from one hybrid version of GMO wheat. And that forms the basis of it. They make like a paste from that, and it forms the core of most industrially manufactured foods. That is not food. Those are food-like substances. Okay, and that is not taking advantage of the diversity that God has given us. Diversity is a wired for love design. So we need to grow food according to God's multifaceted genius. Okay, so now I'm going to just jump around. I've got lots of points, and I'm just going to highlight certain points in this book. But I want to talk about something because I want to talk about food and mind in relation to toxic schedules and TV, because this is a big factor around people eating incorrectly and people having bad attitudes and people having lazy mindsets and things that God calls us to be renewing our mind and bringing all thoughts into captivity. But if you are feeding your brain and body wrong, or if you've got into mindsets of laziness, it is reflected in your food choices. So if you want to see how lazy you are, watch your food choices. You will see that actually, if you are just falling into bad patterns or just eating for convenience sake, etc., and things that are quick and easy, you have come away from the whole meaning of grace and the whole whole meaning of recognizing and respecting the beauty of eating, and the beauty of eating beautiful food that you take time to prepare, etc., etc. And that's not just, that principle carries over into life. Be still and know that I am God. So to learn to have a relationship with God, we can see that also in how to eat properly. So as you eat properly, you actually change your relationship with God. And you may not have thought of eating like this, but if you still get into the truth behind eating, you will see these concepts which I teach in my app and the book. So when it comes to TV, we have such toxic schedules. Rest is a luxury we frequently yearn for. And I'm not talking about hours and days and weeks of rest. I'm talking about living a lifestyle where you rest every day. We are extremely busy, as is everyone else. We all have busy lifestyles, but you can rest in your busyness. You need to learn how to rest in your busyness. And if your mind is constantly going, which will be made worse by bad eating, you are not going to learn how to have those moments of rest. When you have a moment of downtime, that 5 minutes or 1 hour of downtime can be like 3 weeks of a holiday if you know how to rest your brain properly. And if you are feeding your brain properly, you're not fighting against a body that is toxic and a brain that is toxic, and so you find you can't rest because you're fighting against the high fructose corn syrup and the trash that you put in your body and this GMO stuff, and your body's battling to function, and then you're actually thinking there's something wrong and you've got to go somewhere or get away or escape somewhere. Meanwhile, you might just need to calm down, change your diet, and actually be still and know that I am God. So this is something, when it comes to food, our fast-paced modern lifestyles have produced the mindset of I am too busy to cook. And convenient foods at least give me a little bit of time to do what I want to do. I just need a break. I put that in there because that's what a lot of people say to me. I am busy, I still cook. I don't even like cooking. I've taught my kids to cook, so they cook more than I do. But I have learned to love cooking because there's so much importance in cooking. And I realized because I have to learn how to cook meals that are easy and quick, and I've put recipes of our family recipes that we've put in here and on my online program that are quick, easy, completely nutritionally dense, and totally convenient, unbelievably healthy, and our favorite meals that are feeding your brain and your body beyond belief. They just boost your brain power, and they don't take long. So that is, we've got to get around the whole thing of I'm too busy to cook. So what we in our family, and what I teach when I do a whole food seminar, what I teach on my online and so on, is stop being in such a rush. Slow down. Turn off the TV. Put down your cell phone. Switch off your computer and talk to your husband, or wife, or your kids. Find out what, instead of sitting like this with all of you on your cell phone, talk to each other. Make the mealtime a huge thing. We've taught our kids this. We have Italian in the family, you might have guessed. And we basically have made our meal times, when we are together as a family, they are long, drawn-out, stand together, cook together, spend time together. When we go to a restaurant, we don't rush through 20 minutes in, 20 minutes out of there. We make a whole meal of it. We really take our time, eat slowly. It's called the slow food movement. There's actually a whole movement called the slow food movement, where you learn to, and in that time, not only are you eating and cooking and whatever, but you are communicating. You are developing relationships. You are learning to listen. You are doing all the things that love requires in terms of functioning like you should. Okay, so living under the directorate of time, we have learned to live under, we go on time management courses to get even more busy. The clock has become our master. We worship the clock. It's become our idol. We need to shift that. We fall into the trap of living with an unnecessary sense of urgency. When you constantly, I've got to go, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. We've got to be very careful. Yes, be organized. Yes, we need to follow time schedules, but we need to look at our mindset. Are you living like this? Are you living on a constant buzz? Are you living because stress will then work against you? I spoke about that this morning. So watch that. If you weren't here this morning, you need to watch the 10 o'clock service, where I spoke about how toxic stress can work against you, but stress can work for you. But if your mindset is one of rush, 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 hurry, 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 got to eat fast, got to do everything fast, your body is going to be in toxic stress. So your body is going to really battle to digest the food. This hurry sickness, that's what I call it. Hurry sickness now drives a significant part of our daily lives, challenging the value of good homemade meal with fresh, real food and ingredients. I am hot on having a time factor slow down when it comes to eating. It is you have to eat and you have to love. You cannot live without love. You cannot live without food. Combine them. Combine your loving relationship development with your friends, your family. Turn your meetings into food things. Turn your whatever into meal times, and watch how you can transform your lives. Grow gardens together. Have a meeting growing a garden. It is phenomenally healthy. Grow a garden, have a plant a box, whatever. There's so many different ways. I have lots of ideas in my books, okay? I can't teach you that now. Fast food establishments have created whole new segments of the economy by understanding, capitalizing on their own ways of fostering our haste. We are being manipulated by an industry that is making money out of us, okay? To hurry us up, make things fast and convenient. Don't fall into that trap. It's not healthy. And the more we patronize those institutions, the more we fund them to carry on. And there's a massive brain effect of sitting in front of a TV and eating your food while eating in front of a TV. You don't focus properly. Your system does not work properly. You cannot digest food properly when you're watching TV. It's been scientifically shown that when you're watching TV, you are not digesting food correctly. You eat too fast. You don't stimulate the correct hormones, etc., etc. And there's a tremendous brain effect. In 2015, a study was published in the Journal of Infant Behavior and Development, supporting the finding of an earlier paper, okay, that it correlates with mental and bodily ill health when we watch TV while we eat. So there was a drop, if you have a look at the study up there, in cognitive, language and motor delays in young children, significantly associated with how much time they spend in front of TV. There are thousands of studies like this. There are similar, many correlations between how much time you spend watching TV and how much time you're sitting on your cell phone and mental and physical well-being. Okay, so this is not just related to eating, this is in general. So there's carrying on with this, TV and social media increase our hurry sickness. So whatever you're watching the most, your mind wires into that. So if you're constantly on the screen all the time, and I'm not saying it's bad to have your cell phone. They're fantastic. Social media is great, but you have to limit it. You have to control it. The average person spends about 8 hours a day on social media. Now, if you're spending 8 hours with God, that's okay. Then you can have your 8 hours. We brought up our kids. We've got 4 children. We brought up our kids teaching them, if you want to watch TV, you have to read for an hour of TV, an hour of reading. It wasn't long before our kids fell in love with books and learned how to communicate and whatever. So TV then became a treat. We all love our certain shows. I mean, we are obsessed like Chris is with Outlander. I mean, really, it is. If you haven't watched Outlander, you have not lived yet, okay? But we watch it together as a family or whatever. In other words, watch it, but it's balanced, guys. It's balanced all the time. I have a lot of information in my books on the impact of social media in the brain. A Twitter post has an estimated lifespan of roughly a second. The new forms of media are getting faster and faster and faster. So what's happening is that we get caught up in the rush. So be careful, because when you are on social media, on TV, etc., you are in your mindset shifts to rush mode, and that's not healthy for you. So in that mode, and then get out of that mode. So have compartmentalized. Don't make it an ongoing part of your lifestyle. In and out. Okay, so do what you have to do, but have that break. Put that phone down. Don't have it next to you all the time. Don't whatever. Okay, so as we become saturated in high-paced media culture, we tend to develop an increased desire to see these whirlwind transitions. So we want it all the time. We can create almost like an idol worship, an addiction to it. So we're going to talk about those in a moment. So what your brain and body will be learning is based upon your choices. Whatever you choose is what you learn. Whatever you choose, you have thought about and you have felt. Thinking, feeling, and choosing go together. When you think, feel, and choose, you learn. When you learn, you are wiring stuff in your brain and your body. You are creating how you will function by your choices. And it's fed by what you are focusing on. It's called the quantum Zeno effect in quantum physics. Whatever you focus on will stabilize into your brain as physical structures that will then direct your behavior. What do you want to be doing with your life? That's an insightful way of looking at it. Okay, so there's a fine balance, as I said, between intellectually stimulated through conversations, learning and understanding, and becoming negatively addicted to these swift forms of social media. They did a study with some professors who used to teach in a very Socratic way, where it was very much interaction, talking, connection, communication, and then they swapped over to using a lot of slide-driven presentations. And their attendance, they were like the most popular professors, their attendance dropped off, and when they went back, what they did was they actually did a survey to say what on earth is going on. There's been a drop in attendance, something has changed in the classes, the grades are going down. They pulled these professors out, took them up into like a retreat for a couple of days, removed all their social media, and they had to really literally relearn how to actually teach from a book and through communication, through ask, answer, and discuss. And these professors, for the first 24 hours, they had withdrawal. And then once they got through the withdrawal, they got back into the conversations and the discussions, brought that back into their classroom environment, and it was a radical statistical difference between the grades, the students' responses, etc., etc. So an interesting study showing that if we're going to live under a state of hurry sickness and get consumed by media and not with good old-fashioned books and communication, ask, answer, discuss, etc., we are going to have a problem. Okay, so because I'm going to jump over to the next slide, we merge with our environments. Let me see if this is up. We merge with our environments because of the plasticity of our brain. I want to stress that point. I can't go through every point, but I want to tell you what you focus on, you merge with. You merge with your environment. What do you want to merge with? It's merging in your brain. Think of your brain like a can of worms. And so whatever you're merging with is coming into those worms you are adding. And that is then part of you. So you've got to decide what you want part of you. Okay, so a study in the Journal of Consumer Research showed that when people are hopeful, they think about the future. Okay, when people are hopeful, they think about the future. And when they tend to be aware of eating for the future. So when a person has a mindset of hopefulness, and I call that being in the perfect you, the Wired for Love design, they eat differently. They think for the future. There's a health focus on mindset, attitude, food choices, the way you eat, etc. I mean, the way you eat, I have 12 tips in this book's got 3 parts. Admit, quit, beat. Admit is the first part, which deals with the flawed food system and all this gluten-free nonsense and whatever, and all the GMOs and what organic really is and blah, blah, all that stuff. And then the second part tells you of the damage in our brain, what happens in our brain and our body with incorrect mindsets and incorrect food choices. And the third part are 12 tips to beating the system. And there's an app that goes with this book too. So basically it teaches you how to have a hopeful mindset, because a hopeful mindset lives for the future. A mindset that is negative and toxic will just, I don't care what I eat, I'll just eat whatever, okay? And when people tend to ruminate on negative things, look at this over here, when people ruminate on negative things in the toxic zone, they're causing brain damage in their brain, building toxic thoughts, and then basically, and get stuck in the past, people then buy worse foods. So they make bad food choices. So research is proving a hopeful, healthy, wired for love mindset lives for the future, recognizes the need to maintain and steward what we have, and the opposite is true. So thinking, emotions, choices, words, and actions cannot be separated, since they are part of the perfect circle of your mind. Okay, we have... Just talking a little bit about the gut-brain connection, a lot of brain science is relying, a lot of the neuroscience now that you see has a lot of technology, and you see all these beautiful shiny brain scans and things, and there's been an unscrupulous use of these in the media outlets where they say this is your brain on this food, and this is your brain on this food, and this is your brain on this food, and not even just food, it's on using the physical of your brain makes you do it. We have to be very careful, because the mindset behind food advertising is very much based on a materialistic viewpoint, which says that the physical is everything, and if we can show you a fancy picture of your brain, well, you're not responsible, your brain made you do it. And this is leading to, they're saying the cause of the obesity epidemic is because of people have got damage in their brains that's making them do that. And that's not actually the true science. It's not correct science. We can't blame our brain for a choice that we've made. Our brain can't do anything without your mind driving your brain. So it removes responsibility. When we focus too much on the materialistic aspect, it removes responsibility from us as humans with our love, power, and our sound mind, and our phenomenal creative ability to think, feel, and choose. Okay, so the damage that in the brain that results from incorrect lifestyle choices is massive. Okay, let me move on from here. I want to just quickly show you, let's just jump over to the addictions and epigenetics. Okay, I want to just touch on this because we're going to run out of time. Food is a biological need for survival. I've said that already. And we become addicted to food as we are to love. So what this means is that our brain's reward circuits fire up. So when we eat, we activate. Now, this is very interesting because what I'm saying here is that addiction is not a bad word. Addiction is a good word. Addiction means consumed by. Okay, so when we are eating and we are thinking when we eat, because you can never not think, you're always thinking 24/7. When you are thinking and when you are eating, the same circuits fire up in your brain. So the thinking circuit is the same as the food circuit. So when we're thinking about food and eating, the same circuits fire up. Okay, so God has given us an incredible variety of foods that blends with our thinking circuits. So when we eat food correctly, we are actually enhancing our ability to think. Does that make sense? So this is not just nice to know she's being fundamental, she's one of those foodie people, crazy people, whatever. No, it's actually fundamentally intertwined. The most core structure or the most foundational structure that we understand in science today that is responsible for your thoughts is a little tiny protein of which there are 10 billion per neuron, and there are 100 billion neurons, and that's only 20% of brain tissue. But these teeny weeny little tiny proteins called tubulin act as quantum computers, and they contain their structure is such that we have that research has shown that is where your thoughts are activated. It's also they are also very involved in your response to food. So your thinking and your food and disease are all related around this particular protein in the brain, and it's completely and utterly controlled by our thoughts. So it's like a core part of how we function. So it's almost like the first thing that happens in order for us to survive the next minute is the way that the tubulin is responding to our thoughts. And it's very influenced. Tubulin, this protein, is very influenced by our thinking and our eating in a combined way. You see, God didn't just give you a body to abuse. God gave you a body to help you to operate in your normal design. He gave you a body to align with your perfect you design, which I've been speaking about this weekend as well. So there are top 7 addictions. We cannot live without love. More people die from loneliness than they die from obesity. Okay, so we are totally addicted to love. We are designed to be consumed by love. So when we're not operating in love, we are operating out of love. And when we operate out of love, our body and our brain break down. MAD stands for the Modern American Diet. And the Modern American Diet is ubiquitous. It's across the world. It's all the junk food. And it's very appropriately called the MAD diet. And it is an addiction that forms because we cannot live without food. So we're naturally addicted to food. So we're naturally addicted to love. So when we don't have the correct love, it becomes toxic love because you've got to have love. So if you either got healthy love, which is normal, or toxic love, and you've got to have food, and you're either eating healthy food or toxic food. Now, interesting here is we need love, we need food, but we don't need mad food. We don't need cigarettes, heroin, psychotropics, alcohol, and cocaine to survive. But look at the order there, and if you see there that cocaine and heroin are actually less addictive than the Modern American Diet. So it's more difficult to withdraw from junk food than it is to withdraw from heroin and from cocaine. And as I said to the girls yesterday, if you're going to go out and have a snack and it's junk food, you may as well have cocaine. It's less addictive. Okay, so that's quite a tall order. So now I've run out of time and I'm only on the introduction. Okay, so we have to stop there. So that is basically, I'm just going to end off with this slide with addictions and epigenetics. Basically, when we are addicted, we are designed, okay, let's explain it like this very quickly. We are designed to be addicted to God. I've said this repeatedly. We're designed to be consumed by God. Research shows that we are designed to communicate with God every 10 seconds. Every 10 seconds, your brain is actually looking for the energy of love. Okay? And in order for the energy of love to move through the power of the substrate of the brain has to match the love design. So our physical brain needs to match the energy of love that we are designed to be consumed by. And in addition to that, our brain controls our body. So what we also know is every thought that you think controls all the cells of your brain and your body. And collectively, I've been saying all weekend, in your brain and your body, you have about 75 to 100 trillion cells. So when you operate in your perfect you, wired for love, God-designed nature, you are aligning your wired for love design and allowing the computer to work properly, the brain, which is like a very complex computer, to work properly. And that is stewardship of the spirit, the soul, and the body. So I challenge you to get out there and to change your eating habits and become stewards, true stewards of creation, so that you can truly be the royal priesthood that you are, and that you can truly bring heaven to earth in every aspect. God bless you. Thank you for an amazing weekend. I have loved being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Caroline. Amazing. Can we thank Dr. Caroline? A phenomenal word. Amazing, practical.